Okay, so back to our session, I think we were talking about mental health and stigma towards it. So, what is mental health exactly?
I think mental health, I would say, in a simple way, just like a physical health, we have different symptoms. We have a chest pain, we have shortness of breath, we have stomach ache, we have headache and dizziness. Those are all, whenever someone struggles with those symptoms, it's pretty obvious to us someone is struggling with some physical health. You know, Similarly, when someone feels sad, feel down, feel scared, feel frustrated, feel angry, so those are very normal emotions to have. But when those sadness, when those scaredness, when those being anxious and being angry get to the point that it is affecting our day-to-day life, you know, we can be sad, we can be mad, we can be
Yes.
frustrated, but if it is happening almost every day, and it is happening both at in school for children, at home, at work, and it is happening to the point that the school is getting affected, job is getting affected, relationship is getting affected, our sleep and appetite is getting affected. That's where we say that this is more than normal, and that's where we say this is something, the our mental health need to take the priority. You need to get some help.
Okay, I think that's very well said,
Thank you.
doctor. Um, so regarding like different psychiatric conditions, do you feel that certain conditions like we have depression, we have schizophrenia, we have anxiety, do you think that stigma is mainly towards one specific illness or it's all of the psychiatric conditions, I would say?
I think that's a really good question because yes, so there is overall general stigma about mental health in general, and nowadays, we don't talk about stigma. We talk about the discrimination, towards the people who struggle with mental illness. That's how we are seeing. There's a lot of discrimination. Some are very obvious, some are very subtle. So to answer your question, I think maybe there is openness to see depression and anxiety, but I think schizophrenia I have seen, especially again in certain communities, because being myself as a South Asian person, definitely I get a lot of people from that community. So I have seen the people with, when someone struggle with psychotic symptom, people try to hide them. People try to not bring it to them. It brings as a shame, it brings as a embarrassment. And when things get really serious, then they usually bring. So psychotic schizophrenia, I have seen that there is more reluctant to get help. Depression, anxiety, people still feel because most of the time, as we know that schizophrenia is a pretty significant disorder where the life expectancy, your job, and a lot of things get affected. So, but people who struggle with depression, anxiety, they may be able to do work, and because of their so there are some ways that give them some hope, some way to busy. But if you are at home and struggling with psychotic symptom, you very have limited social interaction. So I have seen that they are getting help at a pretty late age. So overall stigma in general, but definitely with psychotic, with the disorder that you're as psychotic, I would see people I have seen more barriers to seek help on time.
Okay, so I think commenting on to what you said, so regarding schizophrenia, so how could we, as a community, as physicians, maybe reduce the discrimination or the stigma towards it? That maybe they should come in earlier stages.
I think the first thing it's always to understand what is a normal and where the things get blurry and what are some warning signs that we call in
Mm-hmm.
psychiatry. So, we all can hear some things, here and there. And we all can feel paranoid. Like, for example, if, like in Pakistan, India, people live close to their in laws. So that's a genuine paranoia. I feel for them.
That's too much.
Yeah, that's too much. And, although they bring a lot of love, but
Of
that
course.
love got too much to it. So, but when, as I said, especially in schizophrenia, so that's what you were talking about, when people are hearing voices, people are having, those voices are telling to kill someone, to hurt yourself, or they are feeling paranoid that someone is against them, someone is poisoning their food. So these are all what I have seen in my practice. People stop eating, people start fighting with their parents, believing that they are poisoning the food. They stop going outside, they start blocking all the windows, they stop complaining about their boss that they are planting against them. So when things get to that point, that's where, those are some warning sign, those are some red sign that I would suggest to seek help. So the first thing is increasing awareness, I think, and that awareness are from multiple level. That is in school, that is at the community level, that is at the religious ceremonies. That's because many times, especially in South Asian, especially in Middle Eastern, especially in Muslim, even in Christian, and in other religion as well, I have seen people mostly reach out to the religious scholar because they think they have done some sin,
Yes.
and because of that, they are going through these symptoms. So I think bringing those awareness to these stakeholders, I think, and as a psychiatrist, when we talk about these things, people may not think, but when a religious scholar, when a teacher, when a celebrity, when a athlete talk about these things, then people are more likely to listen to it. So I think encouraging people who are going through, or their family member are going through those things, if sharing those stories, and sharing the what help they receive and how it was helpful, I think those are some ways to decrease stigma about mental illness.
I think you made it. You put it in very nicely. And one more thing, commenting on culture in the Middle East and even in Southeast Asia. So mainly like mental health issues. I mean, you go to like religious scholars
Mm-hmm.
and everything. It's mainly related to, oh, they might be away from God. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
related to, this person needs to get closer to God rather than mental health. They see it as a distance.
Yeah, yeah. And let me give you a very painful example.
Okay.
So I was in Pakistan. I was, invited at a presentation as a talk, and around the same time, a father died by suicide.
So sad.
And yeah, a very sad incident. And one person came to me. He said, Dr. Zishan, how can a person be that selfish that this person has 3 kids, has a wife, and but this person got so selfish that he killed himself. Why people get so selfish? So what would you say, how can people, the question was, how can be people so selfish? So I asked him, I said, okay, so I asked him, tell me, who do you like the most in your family? He said, my grandmother. And I said, God forbid, I wish that will never, never, ever happen to anyone. God forbid, if your grandmother gets sick to the point that she is unable to sleep, she is unable to sit, she is unable to eat, she is angry all the time, she is restless all the time, and you have tried everything, nothing is helping. What are you going to pray for her? He said, I will pray that God makes her life easier and she can pass in peace.
Okay.
And I said, but that's very selfish of you. Don't you think if your grandmother will pass, what would your grandfather will think? What will the your aunts or uncle will feel? You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, the reason you felt for your grandmother and you are asking, and everyone is asking, and everyone is praying so that her life get easier, because they are seeing the physical pain. I said, when someone is struggling with depression, when someone is struggling with substance use, when someone is struggling with anxiety, that person is trying to convey that I am struggling, but the family member is saying, you should be thankful to God that you have a wife, you have kids, you have, the roof at the top of it.
Yes.
And that person, so we put so much shame and guilt on that person. So at the end, when that person think nothing is working, then at that point, instead of burning on their family, they take their life. So I said, it's not a selfish act. In my humble opinion, they just don't see any other way out, and they see themselves as a burden to their family. And in their mind, the only way to relieve that burden is to just remove themselves out. So yes, there is a lot of stigma, that yes, if anyone is in pain, everyone goes to help. If people are depressed, everyone shame and guilt. You should be strong. If you talk about men, you should be strong. Don't just stay at home, just like the women, who use that
Yes.
very without even realizing it. that should not how it should be, but that's what I'm, for men who use this kind. For women, you should be thankful, you have kids. How can you look at those people who don't have kids? So when someone is in physical pain, everyone go rush to help. When someone is emotional pain, unfortunately, we make those things worse.
That's true. I think the story that you shared is very sad and emotional, but I think that we should learn from the story is that physical health or mental health is as important
I
as
agree.
physical health.
Yep.
So I think that's the main thing that we need to shine light on.
I agree with you. Yep. Yeah. Thank you.